It's going to be quite fast to try to explain quickly what is an oasis and why I think it's interesting in so many ways. No, because we are talking also, first of all, about territory planning, how the oases are really connected between them, because we can have the idea that the oasis is, as you mentioned, an island, but there is this kind of oasis, but they are not important one. The important one are those that are related to space, territory, and they are related in several ways. This is in Gelmim. This is considered the gate of the desert, the Saharan desert, and there is not just one oasis, but multiple, 25. And they became a kind of hub, a logistical hub that provides services to all the caravans that from at least the 9th century to the end of the last century were working. No? This is all around the Nun River basin. And then the most typical is through the valleys. This is the Dra Valley in Zagora. It's the longest river in Morocco, and we are talking about 200 kilometers of oasis. In fact, there are 6 palm groves there, and there are at least 300,000 people living inside or on the edge of the palm grove. No? And then there is these spaces. There are another valley. This is valley that they are connected through the old caravan roads that sometimes they are connected now with roads and also with the movement of the nomads. And that's another project we have connected these 3 axes, because these 3 axes, and you can see the mountains, the High Atlas mountain, and on the south and on the east, the Sahara Desert. This is the limit of Morocco. So they were the places where the caravans coming from Mauritania, Mali, Niger came to those places, and then from those places, not just to the north of Morocco, but to Europe. But it is not just about Morocco. It's about the whole Sahara Desert. There was a network of routes. Some of them are still in place, and they are used by immigrants to get to Europe. You know? The one from Morocco, because the Algeria border is closed, it is not possible anymore. No? That plan, that it's a part of research on caravan routes. We collect all plans and we put that on Google Maps, but then also we try to walk through these routes in Morocco and in Mauritania now with nomads. So, but what are the elements of the oasis? The first element, more important element, is the agriculture. As I said, it is not something natural, it's something planted by men. So there are 3 elements. There are the trees, the fruit trees, more small, and then the land cultivated, the crops. And these elements are, you have to have the 3 of them, because they protect each other. The palm trees and the fruit trees, they provide shadow, but also a shelter against the wind with the sun. And then where, like in many other places, there are plots that they don't cultivate for some years, so the land can be renovated. No? But also it is important to say that it is not just palm trees. There are other oases, like Nadir said, that the main tree is olive trees, is poplar trees, is acacia trees. And that's very important from an architectural point of view. And we will see that later. But the palm trees, it doesn't protect just the land, it protects also the villages. Because it is not the palm grove by itself. It is the action of working in the palm grove that when the sun arrives, if there are people working in the land, they are going to put that sun in another part. If not, people stop to work the land, then sun arrives, and then sometimes even it's like a wave that covers the villages, and it is a huge problem. They say it's desertification, but desertification is provoked by several elements that are combined differently, and the result also can be different. It depends on the place, no? It's a very complex. People say, no, there is no water. No, that's not the real reason, no? Water. Where people get water from the oasis? The main thing is the river. That's why where there is a river, normally there are water. And as here, there are also a lot of problems with the floods, okay? Sometimes there are, like in the oasis of Tidmar, there is a spring, a natural spring. Then this is the oasis of Jorf. Do you see these lines? This is a system called Getara of Fogara. They are underground aqueducts. If we get closer, you know this like the small hole? We get closer. Well, these are the hole. This is ventilation system. And which is important is that brings water from the mountains to the oasis, and so it can cross several territories. So it means several tribes. So tribes are coordinated to maintain these aqueducts. So there is, thanks to that, thanks to the water, there is a whole social collaboration between the tribes. Nowadays, there are many places that people don't care about that because they use other things, no? So the Getara system and the water system is very important to understand cities like Marrakech, because all these red points, they are Getaras.
So Getaras are doing what? What is the use of
They bring water from sources in the mountains, and they can get the water to the city.
But why they're open on top? That's why I understand.
For ventilation.
This is the ventilation.
Ventilation, so people can come inside, and when the level of the water is lower, so they have to come and to dig again and again.
Okay.
Sometimes they have 15 meters overall in Tinger.
Ventilation, but I think it also the ventilation helps push the water longer
Helps
distances.
to stream the water.
And then there is also the wells, that sometimes there are communal wells that people can get water. This is a pendulum. It's very curious because there are only two places in the south, in Nasrat and in Mohammed Gislan, where you can find that. And sometimes you just found these three pillars. You know? So then there is the canals. Okay. Because the canals, it is not just infrastructure that we put in one side. If you want to understand the spatial organization of an oasis, you can see here how the main thing is the water, the canal water, and then the street is on one side. You know? And it can be very, very, very complex. But it is much more complex the fact that it is not automatically. So people need to block one canal so the water goes to the left. And it's working, in some places, it's working 24 hours, 7 days, the whole year. So, and you have, depending on the position of your plot and the extension, you have the right to 30 minutes, 1 hour, 1.5 hours. And for me, that's something I learned thanks to the artists that came and they started to do researches on that. And it's very interesting because in Tidmar, there are calendars of 33 or 34 days. It depends if it is winter or summer. And then I asked, okay, how do you know that? No, the fact of being 33 and 34, there is no relation with the calendar we use. So today you can have 1 hour for the irrigation now, and maybe next month is another day at 3 o'clock in the morning. So how do you know when do you have to do the irrigation? Is there a list? I asked. No, we just talk. So we just talk. When here in Europe, sometimes you don't even talk with your neighborhood. And here is all the oases that have to talk themselves to know when, because the water, if there is no water, you cannot work then on the plot, no? And then you do the irrigation by inundation. Now they are using also other systems, and they try. Overall in Tunisia and Israel, they are very, very good on working on these things. Architecture. So we find elements inside or outside the oasis that for me are amazing. This is a marabut, where the scent are varied, and sometimes each tribe is associated to a scent. But we also have granaries where people keep the food, because also when sometimes there's not a lot of water, but sometimes maybe once every 5 years you can have a lot of rain, and so some land that they are abandoned, just in that moment they are cultivated, they get the wheat, and they keep that in granaries, so at least they know that for 5 years they can make bread every day, you know? And they can be done in rammed earth or even in stones. But also for me, this building near Tirmart and Tudi, it's skyscrapers, because there is 9 levels. 9 levels. Eh?
The barn.
This is a granary.
The granary.
Yeah.
Lombo.
And there is also another element, Zawiya. The Zawiya is like cannot say a kind of tribe, but connected, also related to religion. But so they ruled the mosque, but also they were used because in that part of Morocco till the independence in the 50s, there were a lot of battle and problem between the tribes. So some of these Zawiya, they make the mediation between the tribe with problem. We'll talk about tribes later. So the Zawiya, there is houses. This is the house we used in the last caravan Tirmart with the artist in Tirmart, but it's very rare to have. But for me, that's contemporary architecture. For me, it's amazing, adapted to the climate with the sun. This is in Wadan. Sometimes you don't have the material to do rammed earth. You use just the stone, and then you use also the branches of the palm trees to do carpets and many other things, because everything is used. Then we have the Kasbah. The Kasbah, in fact, there are 45 houses that can be small, or it can be bigger and has to have associated a small village made on rammed earth.
So it's a collective housing.
Yeah, with a small courtyard. Did you see that's the palm trees wood used to build the deck. We will talk about that also. But we can have also big courtyard. People think that rammed earth let you do small windows. It is not true. You can do it in another way. No? And then there is the main element is called Kassar. Kassar is a fortified city. With the tower, they can be close to the palm groves or inside the palm groves, like this one in Tanugal. They can be so big that they can have also houses with this courtyard and the kasbah, with several small courtyards connected. It's Tamnugat. With the connection between the different buildings inside, like an underground system. And we have the gates that should be closed to avoid to be attacked at some moment. Some Kassar has only one gate, others are 2 or 3, depends on how big, because the Kassar, some of them are still in use in the south. No? They could host 3,000-4,000 people. We have mosques, like the one in Masland. I love the minaret, but the minaret in that area where it was supposed to to have 400 mosques, there were only 5 with minarets. So the minaret is something that it is not really as important as we think today. We, and I love this one, we did a workshop on Tamnugal and this madrasa, it's like a university. We were doing this workshop with architecture students and architects to repair the problem they have. But there is no minaret. But again, contemporary architecture made on rammed earth, close to a building from the 16th century. You know? Then we have the mosque. We have the place for the ablutions, where you get the water. We don't know from which area is that, but this is probably from the 16th century. This is an amazing place. And if you don't have rammed earth, you use that with stone. That's Shengeti in Mauritania. And if you don't have material for the floor, but you just use the sand, which is also very important, the fact that you use the material you have there. But we also have synagogues. This is near Tirmart also. Now it has been rehabilitated. You have to know that but till the 50s, till the independence, there have been a lot of Jewish people, population, tribes, and the culture is still very, very present in the south of Morocco and, of course, in other cities. But if we see also the spatial organization of the Kassar, we can have spaces like this one. But you have to think that there are 45 places, so and also you have to protect yourself from the sun and from the wind. So sometimes you start to cover the streets, and sometimes they become completely covered. And in fact, are the best places to stay in summer, where they can be at 43, 44 degrees for several months. No? And then what is also very interesting, that the new neighborhood that people do without the intervention of an architect, they apply what they have learned in the Kassar, and then they do new district, where you can see you don't need to cover anymore the street. They are already protected. And most of them are with a courtyard inside. No? But again, for me, that's a sculpture. Could be even certain way we change the rammed earth for the steel. That could be Richard Serra. So I'm not talking about. This is a plan where I've been working with some of the 300 kosur that you find just in the Dra Valley, which is also very complex. But in fact, there is a methodology, and then you adapt to the topography and to other things. No? But for example, this is Tamnugal. That was the first phase. That was the second. Usually, you arrive from the gate to a common square where you used to have the kasbah or also the mosque, and then you have a main street with perpendicular one that take you to the houses inside with the courtyard. But there was a synagogue here and a second one here. But the first one, we thought it was completely lost. And we, not discovered that, but we realized that it was already there, but in the first floor 2 years ago. So, where are the Kassar? What is the relation with the palm grove? Because most of them could be at the edge of the palm grove. As this is one of the palm grove in Zagora, and we take just the green area, we are going to find the Kassar on the edge. This is the Kassar. This is the palm grove.
Yeah.
So these are the Kassar, and these are all the new construction that they are doing now. But sometimes you have 8 kilometers wide palm grove, 8 kilometers, and so you can see there are construction inside. So if we go 8 kilometers from here to there. So if we do the same thing, well, the palm grove, there are 60 Kosovo inside and 20,000 people living inside. The difference of living inside the palm grove or outside is 6 degrees. So the palm grove become a protection for people living there. Then if they could use, I started to build a wind tower in Iran because they can also have a difference of 10 degrees temperature. So I told myself, okay, 6 plus this, 16. If you are at 44, then you are going to be at 28 without electricity, without technology, just with what you find there. And if we get closer, we don't know exactly where are the Kassel. But in fact, they are there. So the question was it that I would like to advise here about how an oasis could look in Kassel is what kind of villages or building we could propose here. Something compact, knowing that, okay, that was compact because of the attacks. But now people are still doing new district very, very compact, not so compact, no? Because there is also a question of being protected from the cold or from the heat. And how we build that? We build that mostly about rammed earth construction. That's another workshop with students from Rabat and local people. And also we have the mud bricks. This is from Tirmat. I don't know if you know, they do that just with the earth of the site, with some straw, with some gravel, with water, and that's all. And you don't go to another place to get the material. Just the material you get there. Okay. So when you don't have a good one, you use the stone. This is Wadan, where we did last year Caravan Wadan with artists working with children. But again, you do whatever you have. So the wood, we said if some oasis has pantries, you are going to use the pantries to do everything. Except that you are going to do spaces just with between 2 and 3 meters wide, which is not a lot. So, but however, when you have tamarisk, well, even definition is completely different, but it's larger, the space. Or if you have money and you just take one trunk of the palm trees, you can make a larger room. But the best is when you use a poplar that you can have 7-8 meters like Chetois. So, but what is interesting, and that's what are you going to plant in order that what are you going to use as construction material? Okay, so it's very, very, very complex, the question of the oasis. But also, we have been talking a little bit about tribes. Do you see the decoration over there? So if you do, as I did 12 years ago to come to the desert as an architect to understand architecture, then you're not going to understand where is everything coming. Because in fact, all these motifs, you can see that on the carpets. But again, the motifs used in the carpets that come from the tattoos, mostly from the Berber tribes. So there is a strong connection of the identity of the people living in those places with everything that is around them. Because it's about the tattoos, it's about the kind of carpet you do and you use, it's about the kind of architecture. As I say, if you are from a Zawiya, you live you are from the Shorfa, you live in a Zawiya, which is different in an architectural way. You have the music, you have the dance associated also to each tribe. And then you can use other kind. This is Shengeti. There is some declination of all these things. And then, and to finish, because also people between those spaces, the oases, are living and moving in a space, in a places where there is no trees and some wells. And also it's very interesting because how nomad use also what they have around them to build their own houses. So they use the hair of the camels and the goats to build the what is called jaima. And they are the animals they have with them. No? There is in the orangery there is a tent, a Chinese tent. It is made the same way, exactly the same way. Now the people, because this kind of tent were used when the camp in the Sahara were about 400, 500 tents, and now because the sedentarization, because the borders are closed, they are not big camps, at least in Mauritania and Morocco. So, but one question, which are the main construction materials you see here?
Stone.
The stone? No, I see other material. This is the fabric they use, the women called melfa, that sometimes in summertime this is the house of in Tirmar, when they cannot use anymore because they are not in good condition, they did this amazing art installation just to provide shadow. But then they also do that to build jaimas, tents, because sometimes there are 2 layers, sometimes 3 layers, and they are more light and they can move easily. Again, this is just one family, so you don't have the help of other people to mount them. But we had an art student with us 2 years ago, and for her the research was to find something here with no use at all. And for 3 days she was looking and asking, that is for something, or that is just decoration? No, that's for the sheep, for the goats. And finally she told me, Carlo, 3 days I found nothing. So that's also for me it's one very important thing for the nomad, that they use everything again and again and again. And it is not just because they don't have money. I met nomads, they are rich people, but for them it is not how much money do you have in the bank, but how many camels or how many animals do you have. And then there is also very interesting the evolution of this temporary architecture and how it becomes more sedentary. This is from the last work I did with the Nefa in Mauritania. And also it's very interesting, again, how they use the pine trees, the plants that they are in the desert to build this kind of shelter. And they become like a village that they are not used every time. They stay there for 2-3 months, and then they walk 400 kilometers, and then they come back. And there are some places that around the oasis, these nomads that used to come and to go, they are starting to do more things. This is again a granary. The only, we can say, building of the nomad village that can be locked. So they keep there the grain they have for the animals, for them, but then the other thing has completed. But yeah, just 2 images. But we were talking about the Kassar, about the Zawiya, about the houses inside, about the tent. But then when a nomad walk in the desert, they use nothing. So this is a house for a nomad when he's walking. We had these carpets. We were walking, Nefa and I, we walked for 300 kilometers. Every night we arrive to one place. The carpet is the house. That's all. And the sky is the ceiling. So the last image, and why I think that the question is, now we are in Kassel, so if we want to do something, we want to build a village, but just with the thing we have there. For sure, we could use the ramen earth, for sure, but what about the wood? What kind of tree we could plant or use here? But also, what economically, what we can do with these trees, because from the palm trees, they get the dates. If the palm trees from one specific one, you can earn 1,000 euros per year per tree. 1,000. So if you count how many palm trees, there is a huge amount of money there. And now in some places in Morocco, they are planting more and more, and they are getting better in production and in commercialization of the date from Zagora and from Al-Rashidiyya. No? So they feed the animals, they feed themselves, they build everything. They used to the bread they do with oven. They use also with the branch of the palm trees. So and then if you live inside, it's not too hot, it's not too cold. And I was proposed for the Moroccan government several years ago to think how we could do a village in the middle of the desert, in the Dakhla region. And the question is, okay, because if we provide protection to the plant, to the plot with the wind, but how can you do when there is no protection? You have to need to start about this protection, so to start to build the oasis. But because what architects did, they did a village as it was in Casablanca and Rabat. And now, 20 years later, half of the plots are empty, and half of the building that they did, they are empty now. So that's why they told me, Carlo, we need someone that understands the oasis and the nomads, because we cannot think in the same way. You know? Just to finish. For me, the most important is how to solve problem with what you have. And again, it's not a house, it's a village. It's several villages that you use just with this attitude. No? I try to apply this attitude also to Ceuta, my city, north of Africa, with a lot of problems, very complex problems, but I explained to the politician, no, we have to search for ourselves the solution. We have to think. It's more easy to know. Brussels is going to give us money, so they are going to solve our problem. No, we can do ourselves. And sometimes you don't need money, you just need to work. So I don't know if you get a little bit idea what is an oasis.